This is Barley, and I'm definitely not going to pet you for jumping up because that would be rewarding that. In this video, I'm going to teach you how to teach a dog to focus. Now, Barley is a reactive dog, sometimes to people, sometimes to dogs. And so I'm going to teach you, like I said, a way to teach him to focus. Now, a lot of trainers, if they teach this, they'll do it like this. Look, or watch, or look at me, or something along those lines. I teach it differently. I teach it in kind of using operant conditioning. And I do it this way for a reason, because it actually can reduce cortisol and stress in the dog. Barley. So what I do, I have a handful of treats here. I got one treat here. And I'd like the dog, let's have better camera presence, buddy. It is Hollywood. There we go. So I put the treats at nose level, and they have them accessible. I'm watching his eyes like a hawk. Do not look away. The only thing he can do to get this treat is to look me in the eye, or look me in the face. And as soon as he does, it's going to travel to my nose, and then go straight to his mouth. So I want to promote looking at me in the face, but if and I'll explain why here in a second. Well, I guess I'll do it now while we're waiting for him. If I hold it up to my temple like I did before, I'm luring him to look. If a dog looks you in the eyes for longer than about 9 seconds, it stops the production of cortisol, the stress hormone in the dog's blood. Focus. But I'm not telling him what to do. I'm creating a situation where he figures out his own. So trying to take the treat doesn't work. Focus. But looking up at the human sure does. This also has a side benefit. If I don't know what to do, I look up at the human. Focus. Now I'm going 1 second, 1 second. I'll count it out. 1 second, 1 second. Focus. So I'm doing it. It's a straight line from my nose to his mouth to promote that that look. Now eventually it's going to look like this. Focus. Always say the command word after the treat goes in the mouth. Now, when you're doing this, I usually do about 12 treats and immediately reload after each one. And then eventually, like I said, he'll start pretty much looking at us pretty fast. He's almost there. He seems to be a pretty smart guy. And if he loses track, you can kind of mention it to him. Did I drop a couple of them down there? Focus. So at first it's 1 second, 1 second for all 12 treats until I get to the point where he's pretty much just looking at me the whole time. Then I go 1 second, 2 seconds for all 12 treats. So the time to increase is always from your nose to the dog's mouth. And when you're doing it at first, look at your dog. Don't look at anybody else, because all it takes is an eye flutter, and if you miss it, it'll be a long time before he looks at you again. So once you get to, and you want to practice this in different parts of your house. Dogs do not generalize well. They need to practice here, there, where the camera is. So the dogs practice. But inside the house at first. This is the first stage. So you want to get to the point where you have a 15-second focus. And this will help you on walks and some other reasons why. I'll tell you in a sec. So basically, once you can get to the point where 15 times in a row, he just looks at you for all 15, or for all 12 treats for 15 seconds as it's coming down, now we're ready to make it a little bit more challenging. We want to do it outside. Now, when you go outside, we have sights, sounds, smells. We're in Hollywood. There's a lot of activity. So it's much more difficult. So now we go back to 1 second, 1 second. But he understands the game, and so we can move faster. So I might go 1 second, 1 second for like 3 treats, then 1 second, 2 seconds for 3 treats, and 1 second, 3 seconds for 3 treats. Keep doing this until you can achieve 12 seconds outside in your courtyard. And if there's construction going on, that's not a good time to do it. Set them up for success, because it's harder just by being outside. The third stage is where we're actually going to start verbally cueing it. And this is going to be, for the first stage in the house, make sure you can get that 15-second mark within 7 days. If you're not really on it a lot, so each one of you practice maybe 2 or 3 times a day, and you can probably get there in about 3 days if you're really practicing it well. He seems pretty smart. But if you kind of go past a week, he kind of loses interest. This is the focus thing, whatever. So do it, ride the momentum. So then maybe 1 or 2 days outside before you get to that 15-second mark. Now when we're on walks and there's no one around, there's no dogs, there's no coyotes, there's no construction. When we're walking, we go back to 1 second, 1 second. But now instead of holding it up or down here, we're walking. So if he's walking here, when there's no reason for him not to, I say focus. Now he should look up at us because we've got the verbal cue. And as soon as he does, then I go boom, boom, to my nose, and then straight to his mouth, and say focus. So we're doing this while he's walking. And on this walk, all 1 second, 1 second. And then eventually 1 second, 2 seconds. And eventually 15 seconds, he's like running into stuff because he's looking up at you to see where the treat's coming from, as opposed to where he's walking. Now, the guardian does a version of this, but she stops and has the dog sit when another dog is approaching. The problem with that is when they sit, they can kind of focus their whole attention where, and it also puts them a little disadvantage, and dogs process things by moving forward. So there's about 3 or 4 benefits to continuing the movement. Now, the Fenzi method that I mentioned about the circling is something a class I would recommend you guys do and use that. But if you're in a pinch, what you want to do is you see another dog coming and he's kind of like trotting along, and then he sees the other dog, he's going to stop or he kind of lower his head and start staring. That's when we want to get him out of there well before he reacts. So what you want to do at that point is you can say, say focus, he looks up at you, now he's looked away. Dogs can really focus on one thing at a time. So now if you give him the signal when he just starts to stare, it's far enough away where he will avert his eyes. If the dog is too close, he won't. If it's too close, I would just turn around and do a U-turn or do that circle across the street. So we want to practice this with no dogs around. So that way he's used to looking up at us. And I've had eventually dogs where they are, the problem with our sidewalks and our city grids is they're front facing. For dogs, front facing is confrontational. Running straight up to another dog is the most advanced way for them to meet. It's actually very rude in the dog world in a lot of capacities, and it can start dog fights. If the camera and I are both dogs and I want to meet the camera in a polite way, I would take a rounded approach and approach you from the side. So this allows you to, if you see another dog and the dog's walking towards us, we can say focus, and we can kind of edge over or go that direction we want to. And he's looking at us, he's not looking at the other dog. We're getting him out of trouble before he gets into trouble. Now I'm going to go over another method that you can use to help him have a positive association. Now, as a dog psychologist, what I do is I try to put the dog in a position to succeed by, when they fail an activity, I create the easiest version of that activity. Sometimes I do a single scent, like smell or sight. So I talk about how you can use sight and this technique to help him feel more relaxed. Now, in order to do this, you need to find a place where you can have kind of a big area with a walking path. So let's say where the camera is, there's a walking path going this way, so the traffic's going this way and that way. I'm going to go back further away, and what we'd like to find is a triangular field of vision. So I can see from here to here, but there's shrubberies here that are blocking my view from that direction. I can see from here to here, and then more shrubberies that block it from this way. So, and the shrubberies are on this side of the path. So basically, I'll be able to see as people are coming close. So I'm going to get as close to that path as I can with Barley, with him being calm. My 2 indicators, can I get him to sit and take a treat while dogs are walking up and down that path? If he won't sit or he struggles to take a treat, take a step backward. You want to get as close as you can where he will sit and take the treat. So now, let's say we found that distance. Let's say we're at 25 paces. And I see that a dog is coming, it's about to come in the clearing. So what I do is, as soon as that dog appears, I look down at Barley. If 2 seconds, 3 seconds go by, and he doesn't look up at me, I say focus, and he looks up at me. We're far enough away where he doesn't perceive to be a threat. This is a version of what I went over with you guys with the cats, and I'll explain it in a minute. So if he, and eventually, basically you say focus, he looks up at you, now he's looked away from the other dog. We're training him to look away from the other dog. And he's sitting, so he's relaxed. And when he does this, we're able to do the 15-second that we worked up to. And by the time he gets done, he looks for that dog, the dog is passed. So we keep doing that at this distance until eventually what will happen is he's going to kind of hang out, he sees the dog, and he looks up at you automatically. We call this an auto watch, auto focus, whatever you want to call it. So as soon as the dog does that, you want to let him know that was great. You want to pay him what we call a jackpot, which is multiple treats in a row. So I would say focus, maybe 3 seconds on each one, so we give that dog a chance to pass. But we want him to know that was the most amazing thing ever. So instead of running and charging at that dog, you looked away and he did it on his own. So that's why when we first do this, we give him 3 seconds before we say the command word to give him that opportunity. And eventually he will look up at you. So once you get 5 times in a row where he sees the dog and we're training him to avert his eyes and look away from the dog. So once you get 5 of those in a row, then you take 1 step closer and practice again. Now this is something where it's a method that takes a lot of practice. So this is not something you should achieve in one day. This is going to be probably 5 or 10 or 50, however many number of times it takes. Eventually it gets to the point where the path is right here and he sees another dog and he looks up at you. So now when you're on walks, he's used to, instead of staring down that other dog, which can trigger a response to the other dog, he looks away. The other dog sees that he looks away. Well, he's not staring at me. Staring is a challenge, as I mentioned off camera earlier. So we've trained him that looking away from another dog is not only beneficial, it's rewardable. And we have a cue in case he gets in trouble, we can verbally cue it, and we've got him programmed to that 15 seconds. So now you have a bunch of tools that you can use to help him. What we essentially want the dog to do is practice being around other dogs without reacting to them. Now he also, maybe he may have nipped a person running. Well, go to a place where people are jogging. Help condition him that people jogging means if you look away from those people, you get a reward. So after a while, the dog starts feeling more and more comfortable with this. Now, this is also in concert with stuff we went over in my session about, rules. The rules are really important. People disregard them a lot because if the dog doesn't see you acting like a leader, its job is to protect you. If its job is to protect you, it can correct those it sees that are doing what you don't want. So if you, like I said, practice very slowly and methodically, and you build up his through gradually increasing level of difficulty or distractions, eventually you can get to the point where you can get him to focus when squirrels are around, bicyclists, joggers, or whatever it is. And anytime that he doesn't react, remember, always increase the distance. Barley. That's what I thought. Well, this is Barley. Well, it's actually Barley's butt. And I'm David, and these are some tips and tricks on how you can teach your dog to focus on command.